Before I actually get started with the review portion of this review, yes, I know there's a stain on the shirt. I didn't plan on doing a review until I was done with the movie because I just felt like it was something that I needed to talk about. Second, if you've been on the channel for a good while, then you know that at one point there was something that I added to my presentation style that suddenly just went away without any explanation. It's the boy. The Blazer is back. Let's go. Roll that intro. Knives Out. Now, I'm aware that this movie is a bit older, but I mean, the world kind of ended earlier this year, and so new movies aren't really a thing anymore. I'm doing the best I can. Unless I want to pay $20 to rent a movie or watch something on Netflix or Hulu or something like that, I'm kind of short on options. So, I'm reviewing older movies at my discretion, so bear with me. Now, Knives Out is Rian Johnson's most recent film, recent as of November last year. It's August this year. But it's kind of like a whodunit. Not really, though, because I don't feel bad about spoiling it. Most people have already seen it. It was an Oscar contender. They give you a pretty big piece of the puzzle, which most mystery films are. It's a puzzle that you piece together as you're watching the movie. It gives you a pretty major piece in that Marta has a large part to do with Harlan's death right early in the movie. So it's like, okay, so the entire thing will be her trying to cover it up, trying to get around Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, with a strange southern accent, but I mean, over time it ends up working out, and I found it pretty endearing to the character. That's what I would give Daniel Craig's films, Rian Johnson's films, credit for. They pretty much all have top-notch acting. You could talk a little bit about The Last Jedi if you wanted to. And let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. The last movie that this guy made that I reviewed, I was not very kind toward. I did not like The Last Jedi. That is not a secret. I also did not like Looper that much. So going into this movie, I was kind of skeptical, but I will say I was pleasantly surprised by the first 75% of the movie. Things kind of stopped working for me after that, and I'll get into why that is. The writing and the structure of this movie in the first two acts is really good at establishing two things. One, Marta is inherently a good person with a very kind heart that cares a lot about doing right by other people. Two, Harlan's family is the exact opposite, maybe with the exception of Meg, but everybody else is incorrigible and contemptible in one way or another. They're all horrible, selfish people who absolutely do not deserve the fortune that they would get from Harlan's death, which is exactly why he leaves it to Marta, which kind of kicks off the second act of the movie. Well, I guess it's kind of at the midpoint, which pretty good midpoint. But that's what kicks off the second half of the movie, I should say. And Ransom, Chris Evans' character, gets involved in the story. And it's like, okay, so Ransom, in an attempt to protect his own inheritance because he got kicked out of the will, is going to help Marta get out of the situation. And we're rooting for that sort of thing because, like I said earlier, Marta's a good person. We want her to come out on top, even if she kind of maybe did do a bad thing. But she's not a bad person. And I won't say that I was one of the people that, saw everything coming. I will say that I got some of the movie spoiled for me watching the Birdman's analysis of the CinemaSins analysis of the movie, but since the Birdman chops up an even more chopped up version of the movie, there's a whole lot that I didn't actually know about the movie going in because I had resigned not to go see it because I didn't like Rian Johnson's last two movies. It's not just because of The Last Jedi. I just wasn't a fan of Looper either. But I will say that going into the finale, the grand climax of the film, I was kind of curious as to what exactly was going to go down, because the pieces seemed to all be in place for Marta to take the fall and for the money to go back to the family. But then Benoit throws a wrench in the entire thing, and he brings Ransom in, and he starts talking about every single aspect of what Ransom's plan would have been to try to frame Marta and protect his own inheritance. However, that in concept is a good twist, but in execution fell almost completely flat for me, and let me tell you why. In order to implement a well-executed twist, there has to be evidence throughout that what the truth actually is a plausible turn of events or a plausible causality in the terms of the story within its own rules established earlier in. That was a really roundabout way of saying that for a twist to work, it has to make sense, it has to be possible. It absolutely fits that criteria. However, for a big reveal, the way that it's completely word vomited out by Blanc for about 20 straight minutes towards the end, there have to be elements or dangling loose threads throughout the film that you as a viewer, you as part of the audience can grab onto, even subliminally, and start piecing things together. Because in any mystery movie, if there's things that aren't adding up, you're going to want to put the puzzle together yourself. You're going to want to see if you can figure it out before the movie tells you. This movie did a horrible job of that, in my opinion. It didn't give me any evidence as to how Ransom had a plan and then a new plan based on what actually happened and then a counter plan to Fran's plan. I never thought that Ransom was completely eliminated as a suspect, but the absolute lengths that he went to make all of this happen, the only thread, the only piece of that I got throughout the movie was when the great-grandmother says, "Ransom, you're back again already." I didn't think too much of it, but of course it totally makes sense that she would say that because Ransom had already come back earlier that night of the party where Harlan ends up dead. But as far as every single other piece of Ransom's plan, at least for me watching, and I frequently went back to make sure that I was keeping up with everything, I did not get enough of Ransom saying things or dropping hints or other characters saying things or dropping hints to lead me to believe that Ransom had orchestrated just about everything that happened in the movie. Like I said, I knew he was guilty, but to that extent was kind of hard to swallow, especially because it was all said to you. You didn't get any time to think of it yourself. Like, you didn't, at no point did you think, oh, well, maybe Ransom switched the bottles, or switched what was in the bottles. And then the reason that he missed the funeral was so that he could come back to the house and change the evidence around because new information has come to light, blah, 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 blah. None of that for me. And it is for that reason that the big reveal at the end of the movie did not particularly work. However, up until then, this was a masterful film. Great acting, great direction, good pacing, good editing, good music. I loved everything about it up until then. So with all that being considered, I guess it's time to rate this thing. And I would say Knives Out is probably worth buying on Blu-ray. I actually quite enjoyed this movie. Up until I didn't. But that took a long time. So Knives Out, you've probably seen it. What do you think about it? Am I completely stupid? That seems to be the trend. Every time I talk about a thing, I find out just how dumb I truly and fully am. But that's it for you. I'll see you next time. I'm gonna be doing more movie reviews, I promise. But until then, you're just gonna have to stick around.